Hi, and welcome to the End Times Bible Study. Great to have you along with me. My name is Lee, a humble, lowly truck driver with no credentialing or anything to stand behind, doing a Bible study on the end times because honestly, folks, that's exactly where you and I are living in the end times. It is all happening all around us right now. Some call it climate change. I call it the hand of God, giving us signs right now to be prepared. We don't want to be the five foolish virgins who were caught by surprise. Jesus is coming like a thief in the night at an hour no one is expecting. I think that hour is right now. I think that everything is in place and the rapture, the return of Jesus could be imminent. And this Bible study is first of all geared towards us being like Daniel. We don't want to hog credit for ourselves, be glory hounds like Satan was. We want to honor our God who is in heaven. He created everything by the works of his own hands. He has given us every good thing. The food that we have, the water, the air to breathe, the very skin of our bodies, all belongs to him. And he's given it to us for our enjoyment. It was a gift of love. And unfortunately, mankind turned away from God, uh, actually switched teams and sided with God's enemy instead. And that is the whole purpose of the gospel, Jesus restoring us to God's side. It is a work. The gospel is powerful. It works in us to transform us, to bring us back in relationship with the one who loved us, the one who formed this world for us. And it's only the jealousy and greed and self-glorification of Satan that caused man to fall. Well, it caused Satan to fall first and him to drag us down with him. And now our rescue, our salvation, our Savior, our hope, Jesus Christ, stands with an arm outstretched to rescue any and all who will receive him. I certainly have changed my life radically almost 30 years ago, and I've never gone back to the old person because, hey, I wasn't a happy person. I didn't have a lot of good in my life at all. And the Lord changed everything. He healed me of a lot of childhood abuse, gave me hope and love and happiness and laughter. You wouldn't recognize the person I used to be at all. And I'm thankful for that. That's a testimony to God's power to change our lives, and also the fact that he walks alongside us decade after decade faithfully. We may give up, we may stumble, we may turn our backs. He doesn't. He's always steadfast. He's on our side. He's for us. And if he's for us, who can be against us? We are in the book of Daniel, chapter 3. We're going through Nebuchadnezzar's golden image. He was so profoundly touched by the idea that he is that head of gold, the preeminent king, ruler of the kingdoms of the earth. It's gone to his head. He forsook the God of Daniel, who he claimed at the time was the God of gods. He's backslid. He's turned away. He's really rather more infatuated with himself. That is the great problem of humanity, is self. And we're in chapter 3, reading verses 8 to 15. There are certain Hebrews who are not worshiping his idol. And I don't think he's very happy about this. So let's get into it in verse 8. For this reason, at that time, certain Chaldeans came forward and brought charges against the Jews. They responded and said to Nebuchadnezzar the king, O king, live forever. You, O king, have made a decree that every man who hears the sound of the horn, the flute, lyre, trigon, psaltery, and bagpipe, and all kinds of music, is to fall down and worship the golden image. But whoever does not fall down and worship shall be cast into the midst of a furnace of blazing fire. There are certain Jews whom you have appointed over the administration of the province of Babylon, namely Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. These men, O king, have disregarded you. They do not serve your gods or worship the golden image which you have set up. Then Nebuchadnezzar, in rage and anger, gave orders to bring Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Then these men were brought before the king. Nebuchadnezzar responded and said to them, Is it true, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, that you do not serve my gods or worship the golden image that I have set up? Now, if you are ready, at the moment you hear the sound of the horn, the flute, the lyre, trigon, psaltery, and bagpipe, and all kinds of music, to fall down and worship the image that I have made very well. But if you do not worship, you will immediately be cast into the midst of a furnace of blazing fire. And what God is there who can deliver you out of my hands? Now, I am just struck dumb with the forgetfulness of these people. The Chaldeans were the people Nebuchadnezzar was going to put to death because none could interpret the dream. And then it was Daniel and his three friends who saved the day and saved the lives of the Chaldeans. And here the Chaldeans are turning around and reporting to the king that these Jews are not worshiping the false image. Now, I would say this is an act of selfishness that Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego are rulers over the provinces. And I'm sure that these Chaldeans feel it should be their post. And if these Jews are put to death, then those posts will be open for more worthy candidates. So they are selfish, they are prideful, they're backstabbers. All the things that human nature really seems to have in spades. But they're not the only ones who have quickly forgotten what had happened in the interpretation of Daniel's dream. Listen to the words of Nebuchadnezzar. In verse 15, at the end of verse 15, he says, "And what God is there who can deliver you out of my hands?" It's clear that Nebuchadnezzar perceives himself as the God of gods. It's in his heart that he is preeminent. He's exalted himself. Who else did that? Exalted themselves to the level of God? Satan. So it's almost like he is the human physical manifestation of Satan in self-exaltation. And not only that, but the desire to have everyone come and gather around and look at his pretty monster statue of gold that he made. But that's not enough either. He needs them to bow and worship it. There's something very dark going on in Nebuchadnezzar's heart. And he has forgotten what he learned from Daniel, that there is a God in heaven who is the God of gods, who has all knowledge, who can interpret the dreams that no one else can. Daniel made this clear, and Nebuchadnezzar declared with his own mouth that he is the God of gods. But it appears here Nebuchadnezzar has forgotten that lesson, and he's reverted back to his very carnal human ways of self-worship. There's one other thing I want you to take note of, that when Nebuchadnezzar heard, I'm looking in verse 13. What was Nebuchadnezzar's response? He made this golden statue. He ordered everyone from every province to gather around, look at his beautiful statue. Not enough. Worship it. Get down on your knees and worship it. And he finds these Jews have failed to worship his statue. Now he forgets that they were the ones whose God interpreted his dream and revealed the mystery that was troubling his mind. He forgets who they are and who it is they serve. He forgets that they are servants of the Most High God, the God of gods. Now, in verse 13, we read, "In rage and anger, he gave orders to bring Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego." This guy didn't take this lightly. It wasn't, "Oh, well, the Jews worship their God. I understand. We'll give them that." No, he is filled with fury. There is something inside of Nebuchadnezzar that absolutely demands everyone's submission. And I've said before, Nebuchadnezzar is a type of the Antichrist. He will demand all peoples worship the mark of, or take the mark of the beast and worship the beast. He will demand it, and he will have this response to those who do not worship the beast. In verse 13, in rage and anger. It's not enough to just say anger. It was rage and anger. I wonder what kind of fit he threw. But we know that it was quite a fit. And in the end times, the Antichrist will be filled with an enormous amount of malevolence and wrath and indignation towards anyone who does not worship his beast. So it's going to be sheer terror for those who are confronted and those who refuse to bow their knees to the beast. So thank you so much for joining me tonight. Tomorrow night, we're going into, you see, Nebuchadnezzar doesn't just stay angry, he acts upon that anger. And there's some very interesting things we're going to pick up on tomorrow night. Thanks for joining me. God bless you.